That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly learned here.
Welcome to MOTN Reviews. This is Masters of the Nerdiverse Reviews, where we take a glance at some of the shiniest supernovas that are of cinematic nature in the Nerdiverse, and some that are not so brightly lit. I am, of course, your host, Mike G, and you can always find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. I am happy to welcome back to this corner of the Nerdiverse, Beer Business Bureau's own Darren.
Hey, what's up, guys? I am here in the flesh, and I wish I had a beer.
I wish I had a beer too, my friend. You should have saw it. Like, he came in like the remanifestation of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. At first, it was a skeleton, and I was like, okay, am I going to die? Is it time to die now? And then organs formed, and skin, and tissue, and sinew, and it was Darren. And then a little bag popped in. It was like poof. It was like Mr. Mitzelplick. Mr. Mitzelplick. Say that backwards. He appeared just as fast as this movie did. I do want to talk about the film that we're actually going to be reviewing this time around, because I don't know how to make heads or tails of it. I do, but I guess we'll get into it a bit more. The film that we're going to be talking about today actually debuted in 2018, and it's directed by Julius Onah. That's a cool last name. Julius. And the film we're going to be talking about today is
The Cloverfield-Paradox.
The Cloverfield-Paradox. Oh, man. This one came like a thief in the night, didn't it?
I mean, well, you know, honestly, I knew nothing about it. And the thing, and I'm actually glad I didn't know anything about it, because,
right.
Like, you know, and usually the way J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves do these types of movies, like particularly with the Cloverfield movies, they do a lot of viral marketing. Right. A lot of secretive marketing, ARG stuff. Right. And so, like, this wasn't even on my radar because it just wasn't. Yeah. I mean, and of course, you know, when, I look at J.J. Abrams stuff all the time. Yeah. I just so happened to see J.J. Abrams. I was looking him up, and during the Super Bowl, and I saw reference to a thing called God Particle. I was like, yeah. What the fuck? Like, that's what I knew it as. I knew it as God Particle. I mean, I had no idea about God Particle either. Yeah. That's the thing. You know, but anyway, and again, I'm one of the biggest J.J. Matt Reeves fans. So, like, you know, that came as a real big surprise to me. Right. Even more surprising was the fact that it was announced, during the Super Bowl.
Let's talk about that, man. Cause this had one of the weirdest marketing campaigns I've ever seen, where going back to Cloverfield and going back, like you mentioned, and going back to 10 Cloverfield Lane, these films have always had a track record of interesting viral marketing. May it be from cryptic notes to the first trailer not even having a title. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Crazy stuff like that.
Which is really, really effective.
That was crazy. I remember the first time seeing that in theaters. I was like, what the hell was that? Yeah. But
it you know what? A lot of people out.
We were like, I guess we're watching it. Yeah. You know, and then this one was, hey, you know that movie you may have heard of? Yeah. It's going to be on Netflix. It's coming out. It's coming out tonight. Like, I guess I know what I'm doing now.
Like literally a second after the Super Bowl.
I was so hyped because my ear's been on the twing of God Particle for a little while now. And it's one of the movies I wanted to see this year. Because I'm really big into the whole Cloverfield mythos, as it were. And I was like, I guess I'm just watching this tonight, right? Yeah. And I watched it immediately after. I didn't watch the Super Bowl because I refused. But I watched it as soon as it became available on Netflix. And I had to reset my freaking browser. I had to reset my TV just so that it can refresh Netflix and make it viewable. But I'm really kind of interested to hear your take on this whole thing.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay. Yeah. I mean, so right off the bat, I'm just going to explain it in a very, very, very short visceral kind of way. It doesn't make sense. It does make sense, and then
right.
on multiple dimensions, which is also a part of this movie that is anyway. It's a terrible movie.
Okay, yeah.
It is a terrible movie, but that has more to do with the goal that they were trying to achieve.
Yeah,
that's because otherwise, like, and then the same type of MO that they've tried to use for all the other Cloverfields, it's not going to work the same way.
It's funny is that these films all originate from alternate places. Like 10 Cloverfield Lane was never supposed to be a Cloverfield tie-in, right?
Well, no, actually, it was.
It wasn't originally because I had nothing. They reshot all the weird alien shit at the last second,
right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, correct. However, I'm not sure if you follow the campaign for 10 Cloverfield Lane, but what was it? The company, I think TAS something.
The weird company that's interwoven through all these movies.
Yeah, with
Talgado or something like that.
Yeah, Talgado. Yeah. Stambler is actually he was a technician. He worked for the company.
Oh yeah.
And so that also was getting doing the offshore drilling, which woke up the original monster. So there are connections, and that's the thing about this movie. The connections are there.
Yeah.
But you don't really you don't really get that these movies aren't different. You don't really get that they're different, but they exist in the same universe until this one, really.
Yeah. And that's one thing this thing does do, and I will say that it accomplishes. It ties things together, even if it's a loose sandwich, bread tie. It's not a nautical knot. It's nothing secure. But it does enough to say, okay, let's just rock and roll with this whole Cloverfield moniker. And I want to get into more of my theories about what I think what Cloverfield is, but I do want to kind of get into the plot of this movie at the end of the day. And immediately your brain automatically will start tying it into the original Cloverfield and Cloverfield Lane if you're a fan or if you watched both. And the movie opens with the Earth in peril. Pretty much it's like we're waiting for Captain Planet to appear, with there's some kind of energy shortage. And it starts with this, I guess, everyday African-American couple in a giant gas line.
Right.
It reminds me of there was a time in America.
Petrol line. Petrol line.
Petrol line, because they're actually in the UK, right?
No, they're in America. But that's the other thing that threw people off. They were in America.
Oh, I thought they were in the UK.
That's what I thought as well.
They just happened to be English.
Yeah.
In America.
Right.
Okay, that super threw me off.
Yeah, of course, it threw everybody off.
Yeah.
But like, it's, and that just adds to the confusion of this movie. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah. And you find out that, I guess the Earth got the bright idea to create a pseudo science fictional hadron collider in space because they knew that testing this thing on Earth wasn't the biggest bright idea. And our protagonist happens to have the opportunity to work on said project. And this is a way to find infinite reusable fuel, pretty much create an arc reactor for our Marvel heads out there that will fuel the Earth with energy for all times. And it's just automatically you're like, okay, this isn't New York that was in Cloverfield. Because that's not even mentioned hide nor hair. There's cars everywhere. Nobody's tripping, right? It's just it's a regular night out. And it already gives you, without saying it, this is a different state of reality or a different multiverse, as it were. And that's a word that's thrown around a lot in this movie is the multiverse idea, which kind of goes into my idea of what Cloverfield really is. But she agrees, and there's some weird exposition about their relationship. And she joins the ragtag group. And everyone speaks different languages but understands each other. It's almost like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure episode where it's like Jotaro is Japanese, but but the other guy's like Italian and one guy's Egyptian, but they all just speak the same language. And they go to the space station, and we are introduced to pretty much the crew that's going to save the world or die trying, sort of. What did you think about the weird callbacks on the ship, on the space station Cloverfield, as it were?
When you say callbacks, what do you mean exactly?
Like, the Donald Logue character.
Oh, yeah.
Technically being related
to Stambler.
To Stambler. His last name was Stambler.
Yeah.
But this is an alternate reality Stambler.
Right, of course.
That could be his uncle, or in this case, I would guess his great grandson, maybe.
So
this is a bit in the future.
You're right, and you also don't get that right off the bat.
No, you don't. You have to kind of dig for that.
Stuff is like actually modern day, and it's actually unless you follow the campaign, you know that it's set about 10 years from today. Yeah, from this year. So, my thoughts on him. I mean, my thoughts on featuring him and saying what he was saying is basically. He's explained everything.
Yeah, he explained.
He's explained exactly
the movie.
Yeah, he's explained the entire series. There's no reason for me to watch.
He's the harbinger of doom. He's the guy in front of Friday the 13th.
Right.
That's Cap Blood. You're all gonna die. And you're just like, nah, it's fine.
I mean, I feel like it's more of a cop out. In a sense,
it wasn't necessary.
It wasn't necessary, but that's again like the goal of this movie. It's
kind of a sacrificial lamb, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, their goal they were trying to achieve was the wrong type of goal. Yeah, and it made it even more. It made it even worse in the fact that they made this movie another universe. To try to pseudo explain where the monster comes from.
I kind of feel like they wrote themselves in a bit of a hole. Yeah. At 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah. Because it's like, that movie it's easier to connect this film with Cloverfield than to connect 10 Cloverfield Lane with anything. Because it's so off kilter.
I mean, unless you go back to what Stambler was saying. He was saying you're going to open up the
gates of hell, pretty much.
And so you're going to have all sorts of monsters, all sorts of demons and shit. And so what I'm saying with that is like, it doesn't connect right off the bat if you were to just watch 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah. Obviously, what the fuck? Like, in fact, actually, what I thought 10 Cloverfield Lane was related to was actually Super 8. Even though that movie is not connected to any one of them, actually. Right. Same type of alien. Same type of alien.
Same type of ship.
Yeah. Right. But that also goes to the fact that the artist who created the Cloverfield monster uses a template
for all of his work.
Yeah,
it's kind of like an H.R. Giger kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's like meta on top of meta, and you're making false connections, and it's just it's a mess.
It's a big mess, and of course you see the Slusho bobblehead on and it just further confuses shit. It's like there's certain things in the multiverse that are constants. Right. It's the Cloverfield-paradox in this weird Slusho creature. Like they can't even make it a different shade to make it make sense. Like, okay, this is a different universe, so he's not pink and blue, he's yellow and red. You know, that would have been interesting. Like, oh, this is their universe version of this character, but then that would have kind of let the cat out of the bag, I guess, a little early for people who want that connection. So apparently they've been working on this thing for 2 years, where on the radio in the beginning of the film, it's like, yeah, we're going to run out of energy completely like in 8 months. Right. So they know what's going on Earth, but only way you get to see it is via the guise of her boyfriend. And it doesn't look that bad. He's at the house. He's chilling, He doesn't seem too affected by it because maybe he's upper class, I'm assuming. But they finally get the God particle equation and fire the bad boy off. And it actually, because they say for a sense of simulated suspense that we only got 2 more tries. We only got like a couple more tries, and then we just gotta quit, I guess, figure something else out.
It's also important to remember that they did explicitly say that it was supposed to take only 6 months.
Yes. Yeah. So they've been burning on fumes for the past, it was like 300 or something. How long was it? It had a day count. It was like
694 days.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, shit. So they're just like, it's crunch time. Like this, if this doesn't work, the Earth is effed. right? It's wrecked.
Right. And then also another thing about that, because I actually have a theory about that as well.
Okay.
So again, this goes back to Donald Logue's character. Him saying that every time they use it, that it's actually affecting, time itself, the dimension of time itself.
Yeah.
Past, present, and future.
Yeah, he mentions that.
And so, my theory, the reason why the Earth probably wasn't already in shambles by that time.
Yeah.
Probably has to do a lot with, corruption of time, but also, it could really just be the fact that things weren't that bad until you actually go outside.
Exactly, right.
But because in 2 years, I don't even know how he would be alive. Because he
would be dead.
Yeah.
Like a large populace would be dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be pretty much like Day of the Dead style with cats in, with the rich inside of like bunkers and shit. Because in 8 months, all fuel and energy is gone from the Earth. And what's 2 years after that? It's apocalypse, right? At that point, right? But what throws us off from what is bad editing is that you get the boyfriend is kind of like tacked on through this through line of this story. But then again, he is kind of like in a weird bomb shelter.
Yeah. So it turns out the wars that they were talking about.
That's another part. That's another through line of the story.
It turns out, make it really short. What I gathered.
Yeah.
At the very end of the film is that those wars never actually happened in our universe. They happened in the other universe.
Yeah.
What happened on our universe is quite literally the monsters are the ones that actually. So,
okay. And we'll get more into that as this weird story keeps going. So they fire off the collider or what have you, and it's working. And they're like, we have stable energies. We have a stable energy field or stream. It's working so good that it overshoots it, and it
overloads. Yeah,
it overloads. It misfires, and once that misfire happens, topsy turvy, up is down, cats and dogs living together, and mass hysteria. And when everybody's like kind of all getting back to. The Earth is just gone, which is kind of a fun thing to play with. It's like, well, we're not getting any signals. Okay, try NORAD or whatever. We're not getting anything.
Yeah,
it's like, look out the window, you idiots. And I've always had a problem with windows in space stations because it seems like the most structurally, the biggest structural fallacy in like creation. Like, why would you create plexiglass in space? Like, looking outside, it's nothing to look at. First of all,
well, I think it's for morale. Actually, that's what it is.
You have fake TV screens like in Resident Evil, where it looks like the beach is outside or something. You don't have, because it's a space station. Any little crack is going to cause it's going to cause like hull damage, man. You're all going to die. Sorry, I'm not going to go on that trip. So they're like, okay, the Earth's just straight up gone. What did we do? This thing has infinite potential. Anything could have happened. Our systems are fried. Things aren't working. And then it kind of becomes a weird little haunted house at this point because the ship starts changing.
Yeah.
And
they start changing.
And some of the characters is the young lady that we were introduced to in the beginning. The guy who played Baron Zemo in Civil War, I think his last name is Braun or something like that.
Brule.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And he plays the German kind of engineer.
You're right.
Because the thing is that this is truly Captain Planet because there's like a representative of every race on this ship. You have Zhang Shi from House of Flying Daggers. Yeah. And she's cool. I was happy to see her doing stuff. She looks exactly the same, which is awesome.
Yeah.
She's exactly the same. And they're all trying to figure out, like, first of all, let's find Earth. Second of all, let's get the ship fixed so we don't die. And the weird stuff starts happening. You know what I mean? The first weird thing is the other officer. I want to say he's Swiss. Or what? That guy?
He's Russian.
He's Russian.
Yeah.
Right, because he's the big jerk. He's the wet blanket. And he's just, I guess they're used to his shit after like 2 years of being cooped up with this guy. And he starts kind of going through his own little arc that's immediately abruptly stopped to where you think it's just affecting them mentally. Maybe it's the strain of the situation.
Maybe it's Pandorum or something like that.
Or Pandorum, right? I love that movie. It's so weird and dumb. So Pandorum. Oh man. But he starts tripping, talking to himself and kind of having his own machinations. Maybe the Germans had something to do with this. And it's just like, no, man. Like, it's just us up here and we're saving the earth. Nobody wants to fuck this up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why would anybody sabotage this?
Honestly, with him, I didn't get this at first.
Yeah.
And I thought that maybe it was, a mental thing. Yeah. But when I started to look at it a little bit more, I actually, because they're all affected differently by the event. The event. Yeah. They're all affected differently. Like one guy loses his arm.
That's another cool part I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
But I honestly believe that Voltok, or whatever the fuck his name is, he didn't last very long. But he actually, I actually believe he was talking to himself. Like talking to the other version of himself. Yeah, because there's a lot of that in this where the multiverse kind of communicates with itself. Yeah. So I think that they were existing literally in the same space. And that's why his body couldn't take it. Yeah. And his brain he was having an internal conversation that we never got. Right. Like full, because the movie. And he was like his own little weird ex machina, wasn't he? Yeah. So he's in the mirror and he has of course and one thing I want to say about this movie, I don't want to sidetrack too hard, is that it takes a lot from a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He had a poltergeist moment, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're looking in the mirror and crazy shit happens. So his eye just tweaks out. Yeah. Well, firstly, he starts seeing a vein pop in his head. Yeah. And you're like, whoa, that's new. Yeah. Is my eye okay? She's like, you're fine, whatever. Yeah. And his eye just tweaks out to the left. And he's like, how do I fix this? Like, he's like poking at it and then it just tweaks out to the right. Mm-hmm. And then it fixes itself. And it's just one of those funny little body horror moments that I did not expect out of this movie. And he gets the bright idea to 3D print a gun, which he had to break protocol to do. Right. But if he's like just one of the members of the ship, how could he break protocol to do that? I would think only the captain or maybe the second commanding officer would have access to something like that. Again, so they've now collided with the other universe. Yeah. So the idea that bothered me too, because I was like, how the fuck, how would he know to do that? Yeah. Where did he get that stuff? Where did he get that from? But again, this universe is different from the other universe, and this is the same exact space station that, and we'll get later onto why that's also important. Yeah. Because his knowledge is no longer his knowledge. It's the other guy's knowledge. And it's their knowledge. Yeah, exactly. So their protocol may have been different. They may have had schematics for that, each and every one of them, or he may have just had it himself. The other version B. Version B. Yeah, that's the easiest way to keep this keep these cats straight. Yeah. So version B of him, you're saying, in his head, because they're occupying the same space, because according to the Cloverfield-paradox, is that all these multiverses are trying to conjoin into each other. Right. Well, not conjoin, but the fact that this quantum entanglement, that happened because of this shit. It was the rock in the pond, so to speak. Yeah. And it affected everything differently. Right. So you said Voltok? I think his name is Voltok, something like that. He gets the bright idea to say it has to be the German character that is actually, and this kind of goes back to further in the story, which we'll talk about in a second. He's plotting against us. He has to be stopped. Yeah. So this is all our headcanon because they don't explain this in the movie. Right. His alternate reality B self is like, okay, make this gun. Let's go take care of this and save the day. So they go in there. He threatens him and Shang-Chi with a gun. And she's yelling at him in Chinese. And he's like, yeah, man, we know, why'd you put the gun down? And homeboy just kind of seizures out. Yeah. Kind of apropos of nothing. So they're like, and he's apparently dead
at that point, right?
No, he's still alive.
Oh, because they take him into, they have their alien moment.
Right. Yeah. And like you were saying, like a lot of this, there's a lot of
homages.
There's a lot of borrowed themes and borrowed, not plot devices, but just
borrowed moments.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's one moment that I have to mention, but I can't wait to get to it. But he is convulsing on the table, and apparently he just dies. Yeah. And there's a subplot early in the film where they had these worms, I guess, for experimentation. And the American guy, no, he's not American. What is he?
He's Irish.
He's Irish.
Yeah.
The Irish engineer.
Yeah, Mundy, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, the worms are gone, guys.
Yeah.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
And they're just like, whatever. And they have this perfect shot of him just upchucking maybe 1,000 worms. Right. Splattering all over the place. They're swimming in worms now. Yeah. And they're just like, well, I guess we know where the worms went. And it's like, it's such a weird moment.
Yeah. His character was actually very weird.
The Irishman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you want to keep talking about him?
Let's talk about him for a second, because he takes all this shit kind of in stride.
Yeah.
It's very off-putting to me.
It's really weird.
It
gives like a sort of, I mean, he did serve as kind of the comedy, but it was a weird type of comedy.
It was like, it wasn't ha-ha funny. It was like dry humor.
Yeah,
it was like, CK, what's his face's humor?
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.'s humor, where it's just like, okay, I guess he's chilling.
Yeah.
But he comes to a part because they have to fix the ship, and because of these wacky, because of the paradox, the ship is in shambles.
Right.
Parts are missing, not broken, but missing. Like their gyroscope is missing. And he's going around doing his engineer thing. And he's leaning his arm on the wall, and the arm loses dimensional integrity. Yeah. The wall, rather. Yeah. And his arm just drops into it, and it's shifting. And how would you describe what that scene was?
So for me, it reminded me exactly of Fringe.
Yeah.
That episode where the universes are the Bellini collision principle or theory, where when two universes crash together, all sorts of crazy ass shit happens.
Right.
It's another version of quantum entanglement. So with that scene, literally like the wall, his arm is now the other guy's arm.
Yeah.
And it's also being fused with the wall, but it's almost, the walls actually turn into like some sort of like metal soup.
It turned into like a mirror in a weird way.
Yeah, it was really odd. And then, going further, they pull him out of it and his arm is just gone.
It's just,
but it's not gone.
It's almost teleported to another part of the ship.
Right.
And it makes less sense because you would think it would have fallen to the other dimension, right?
Right.
But no, it's just like it's shifted to another part of the ship, and the medical officer is like, it's almost like you were born this way.
Right.
There's no injury. It's like it grew naturally this way. He's like, well, apparently the hell it didn't. Yeah. And he's so chill about it. He's just like, I guess I don't have an arm now.
Yeah. And then that one part where he's like, "Where's my arm?" and like his face. There's that one particular scene. It's like, it's like almost like he wants to laugh.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
He's having a Jimmy Fallon moment where he's just like, "My arm, guys." It was
one of the most awkward scenes I've seen in a long time.
It just didn't feel. I didn't feel any weight behind it. Like he's like, I guess I'm the one-armed engineer, and he's cracking jokes about it. You know what I'm saying? It's very funky. So actually, and then we come and the ship messes up again, and they're scrambling to the part where the ship messes up, and they hear this weird screeching. Yeah. It sounds like a monster, and it's behind.
Oh wait, actually that happens before. He loses his arm.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's go to that because that's a very important part. They're investigating the ship, and they're going around looking for where to fix things so they can make it back home for a second jump, because apparently they fixed it. They know how to do it now, but the ship's in such shambles, there's no way they can fire it again at this point.
Right.
So, who comes across it? Is it him? Is it the Irishman?
It's Shang-Chi.
Oh, Shang-Chi, right. she comes across
Tam, whatever.
Tam. Is that her name in the film?
Yeah, that's her name.
I'm sorry.
It's hard because I want to call them by their actual names because I really didn't care much about their actual.
Same here. Same here. Like I didn't the characters I really didn't care too much about.
Yeah. But
they're like, we need to open this shit and deal with it. And everyone's like, I'm not opening it, man. We just crossed like a dimension. Like anything could possibly happen. And they're like, just do it, man. So they open it up and literally someone is like interwoven into the wall, like through wires and electrodes. And it's this, Anglo-Saxon, beautiful, just lady that they just found in the wall with tubes coming in and out of her arms like Pandorum.
Yeah.
And they fish her out. They're like, yeah, we can't cut wires because this is just going to make the matters worse. Like, what? Just leave her there to die? And they're just like, kind of, yeah. But they have this weird technology where it heals wounds immediately and she gets super healed up.
Yeah.
And this opens up a whole new can of worms, as it were. So established now is that, has it already been established where the Earth actually went at this point?
No, they haven't found the Earth yet.
Okay, so the Earth is still missing.
Yeah.
But they found this lady. Mm-hmm. And they fix her back up and they're like, what the hell? Was she a spy?
Right.
You know, how did she get on the ship? And they get her back to operating status where she's kind of coherent. Mm-hmm. And she's freaking out because like, why are you guys treating me like this? And like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
She's like, I've known on you guys for the last 2 years. And they're like, we don't know who the hell you are. And she's talking directly to the protagonist.
Yeah, Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton, yes. And she's just like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. And it's like, well, what exactly is happening?
Right, yeah.
And she's crazy, right? And she's like, I'm just freaked out that you guys don't know who I am. And they just kind of keep her away in kind of like stasis while they keep her away in quarantine while they kind of figure out what's happening. And I believe this is the part of the story where they actually find out what the situation is. The situation is worse than they've truly anticipated.
Right. And so at that part, actually, she still doesn't know what's going on. But you also start to see things change, like the little things start to change, like the picture on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that which features her all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And replaces Tam.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also the reason why she says, you know, I don't know. I know all of you guys. I don't know her.
Don't trust her.
And then Hamilton's like, I don't
know you.
Like, it's like,
don't
like,
trust
what?
you. Right?
I mean, but you also did come out of a wall magically. I mean, like, I guess I'm gonna hear you out.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
I mean, because nothing's making sense.
Nothing's making sense at this point. So might as well just rock with it.
Shit. I mean, yeah, and like, so at this point, that's when we get to the scene where that's when she gets to the scene where she's hugging her and consoling her.
And she whispers in her ear
like, "Oh, don't trust, you know, the German."
Right.
Don't
trust him.
Yeah, because like it. Yeah, like.
And then that kind of opens to them starting to look a bit further into his transmissions, which he's like, they find out that he's been sending transmissions to Deutschland this entire time.
Yeah.
And that he is banished from working on any other thing on the ship while they fix it. He's like, and the German gentleman is like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, you're making a big mistake. And the captain is just like, I see the proof, right? Yeah. But this is still not, at this point, it's not explained that reality is starting to flip to the current reality that they're in. Because they're an anomaly in this universe, and the universe is trying to fix itself.
Right.
So it's adjusting things to fit its natural course.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy. And I'll make sure that I haven't skipped over anything. So we get to the point where they find Homeboy's arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a trippy ass part. Because they're arguing and they're like, and somehow the German guy gets out. And he gets out of his confinement. And he's like, guys, you have to check this out. He's like, how did you get out, first of all? He's like, don't worry about that. Just come here. Yeah. And you see the Irish engineer's arm just crawling down the down these metal shaft way, almost like Aliens or like Leviathan or something like that.
Right.
And then the movie kind of jumps a weird shark for me. And that's when they kind of catch his arm.
Right.
And it starts acting like it wants to ride.
Right. I mean, and the other thing about that
is that?
They catch his arm, but they contain it as though it's some sort of dangerous animal. He wasn't trying to escape.
No,
he can't attack you.
It's an arm.
And then it turns out that he doesn't have control of his arm.
They're like, "Are you controlling your arm?" He's like, "No, because I'll be flipping you off right now. Because it's not my arm."
Right. And then it's obviously the version B Monty's arm.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'm still confused about, and maybe it's not supposed to make sense, but he tells them to check Voltog or V. I'm just calling him V.
Yeah, V. That's fine.
They tell him to open him up, and like, what the?
How did it know to do that? Unless they did that on their end.
I mean, yeah, because again,
right?
because with the multiverse theory, like time is a cascading event between each multiverse. So you can either time is actually ahead or behind,
right?
And so if something's already happened, the deja vu, it means that it actually already happened,
right?
But so that could be that, or I don't know. It's just
hard
it's hard to really explain that because I mean plus I mean could the other version be Mundy? Could he see his arm in that? Because I mean, he was going somewhere.
Yeah, it was crawling to a destination.
Yeah.
But how is he controlling his arm to get it to a destination it can't see? Because it's an arm.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't have eyes. It's not Cousin It, right?
Yeah.
You can't figure it out. And it also makes it more confusing because in the actual moment of the paradox, we know that at least two things happened. Their ship went to Universe B, and the Universe B ship just exploded.
Right. And then it ended up in the ocean.
It ended up in the ocean.
Yeah.
So it isn't as if these two universes are trying to talk to each other. One's just dead, and the other one is trying to get back to its own Universe A.
Right.
So it's not a Universe B engineer trying to talk to them. It's the arm having knowledge outside of its existence.
Yeah,
and it's an arm, so how is it doing it?
Right.
Apropos of nothing.
It's really...
It's a very confusing spot. But it's right. It says check Voltov, and they're just like... And the medical engineer is just like, I can't open him up. I'm like, but you're the doctor, dude. Like, just do it. Right. And Tam is like, oh, forget it. I'll do it. Yeah. She opens him up, and they pull out a gyro out of his gut.
Yeah.
A ship part, which makes no sense to why it would end up there. Another part of the writing I wish they would fill in because that doesn't make sense to me.
It also doesn't make sense that he blew chunks and worms out of his body. I mean,
it seems like organic matter was affected the most.
Yeah.
On the ship,
right.
And the inorganic matter kind of had its moments of haywire because was he even close to the? Because they were all on the deck when it happened, right?
Yeah.
There was nobody floating around the space station.
Right.
So how did it go from its coupled little space on this as an engine part into his gut on the deck? That doesn't make any sense to me.
The only thing I can think of is that gyroscope is not the gyroscope that they originally had. It could be version B gyroscope.
It just could be a version B gyroscope.
And the other one just disappeared because
okay, it explodes, right?
Yeah.
Pieces go all over the place in this temporal explosion, this universal temporal explosion. So that piece, fully intact, happened to jump over to his gut,
right? Because remember they hadn't excavated the site. They haven't recovered anything from the site just yet.
Right.
So who knows what's on that ship.
Right.
And what's not. You know what I mean? So
and
because
it just happened.
Right.
And then I don't want to jump too far ahead, but then they start getting transmissions from that Earth as if their stuff is tuned to it.
Right.
It's just kind of weird to me.
Or actually, I think what it was, they found the Earth. They got the comms work. They got the instruments working again.
Right.
They found the Earth. They realized they were upside down. Whatever.
Another thing where it's like, okay,
I don't know why that adds anything to the story, but
right.
Anyway, and then they fixed their comms, and then I think they tried tuning, but I don't know how they would know to tune in what frequencies? I mean,
that's my whole point. Yeah. Like, how would they know to tune into Earth B?
Yeah,
unless things were completely the same. But we know, we've been told that these are different multiverses and things are quite different.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of like a plot convenience,
right,
as it were.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Easy writing, but
easy writing.
And then they find out that there's a war that started.
The war that is kind of hinted at on Earth A is full blown on Earth B.
Right.
And it's in the engineer that's from Earth B that's on their ship now is like, yeah, we need this sustainable energy to stop the war, because the whole reason for the war is the energy race,
right? And
it's with Russia and Germany. Is that the case?
Germany was waiting until Russia was weak enough so that they can strike.
And they were talking about but then it's weird because, am I getting this part wrong? But we go back to the boyfriend who's back on Earth, and he's having a hard time getting communications about his wife, I guess.
Right.
And like, yeah, we just don't know where they are. Did it explode? What happened? We don't know what happened. And he's saying stuff on the news like, yeah, they're starting to do ground waves. Right. You know what I mean? So the war is starting on their end too, because of the freakouts and.
No. Okay, this is where it gets really fucked up, really confusing. So actually, this is what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
You remember when he goes to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
And he sees
he sees
clover. Yeah, exactly.
A clover. Right.
So the explosions that are happening, because on the radio transmission, on the radio broadcast, they say that they're trying to figure out whether it was nuclear or conventional, and it's neither one of those things. Mm-hmm. You know, and then like you get the hint that there's some crazy shit happening because he's on the phone with his, I guess, not orderly, but
he's on the phone with like someone that has ties to NASA or whoever's manning this space station.
Right. And he says he saw what? Right. You know, and then you kind of get the idea that what the guy was referring to is what he just saw.
What he just saw.
Yeah.
You saw, and they play around with it a lot.
Yeah.
So, you know, especially at the end, which is kind of sent me on a whole different thing. But then, and that's what really makes the story confusing, because if they would have kept it all on the space station, it would have been a lot more plausible to its own theory it's trying to push. But having it keep going back to Earth, it keeps messing up its own timeline.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we're made to assume that what's happening on the ship in Universe B is at the same time that is happening on Universe A on Earth, and that's not the case, right?
Right. Somehow the collision of the Higgs boson particle that they foolishly did, unintentionally did, and they could have avoided it by doing their damn jobs correctly. But anyway, they find out later that it was the user error.
It was extreme, and that goes to the next part of the story. It was extreme user error based on the perspiration,
right? The condensation,
which
is really incredibly stupid. But
anyway,
Jeez
Louise, man.
Anyway, so time already is completely fucked up,
right?
For Universe B.
Yeah.
So who knows how much actual time has been shifted
by the time they get back to A.
Yeah. So time would have. So so basically, what's happening on Universe B is not these monsters.
No,
it is a war because of the energy crisis.
Because of the energy crisis, and it's the destruction of Clover,
right.
of the Cloverfield station,
the Shepherd, the Shepherd, and so for whatever reason, the parallels that were supposed to happen didn't.
Right.
You know, the parallels of war happening on both universes didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't explain though why it is only our universe A or dimension A, whatever, that's affected. And it doesn't also explain. It explains where the monster comes from. It doesn't explain why it happened in the first Cloverfield or this Cloverfield.
And I have a theory. I can't wait to kind of go over my own theory on what exactly all this means and where these monsters actually fit in. And it doesn't explain it. You're absolutely right. Like why is Universe B unaffected by these creatures? But we don't know that one way or the other, do we? Like,
I mean,
it's not mentioned that there's creatures in Universe B.
No, it's not. And again, like, why would they be fighting each other if
they have this overwhelming threat
going on?
Like, it seems
makes
a little
no
short-sighted,
sense. Like,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is there war happening when literally monsters are raining from the sky? Or is it 10 Cloverfield Lane where there's actually warships that are coming and invading Earth? But Tam figures out the human error, fixes it just enough time to die, where she gets like super sub-zeroed out of the airlock. She gets fatality.
That's pretty messed up.
She dies ultra hard.
I'm talking about what you just said.
She got sub-zeroed, dude. She got ultra wrecked. And they're like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, like, we can't do this. And it's like, well, I'm an engineer. Like, we're not trusting her.
Yeah,
she's from an alternate universe. She has the mustache like in Star Trek. And they're like, no, you guys want to live and save the Earth? Then we gotta trust.
We have to do something. I mean, like,
yes, we can't just sit here and die. Cause
I mean, what the hell else do you want? I mean, the longer we stay here, the more
messed up things get down there, and the longer we don't do anything, the worse the ship's going to get.
Right.
So they start fixing the ship again, and this is my favorite part of the movie is when the engineer, they're about to fire it up again because they got the formula and everything's working fine, and the engineer is fixing little things around the ship, and there's a magnetic pulse that happens, and all of his equipment sticks to a wall, and it's like it's shifting and not shifting, but it's kind of magnetoing to the wall.
Right.
He's so fascinated by it that he doesn't notice that the nanotech stuff,
which I think is a kind of a dumb scene. But
I like the scene because it reminds me of Night of the Creeps.
Oh, okay.
Because the magnetic pull is so strong that it's pulling the nanites away from the wall, and it's giving it this weird wiggle effect.
Right.
And it reminds me of the last scene of Night of the Creeps where the leeches are wiggling towards the kids right before the basement explodes.
Right.
And it's like such a, if you're not a horror nerd, you probably wouldn't get it. And it could just be me internalizing it. The director may have not even thought about that film when he made it, but it just gave me a very, very hard Night of the Creeps vibe. And so for some dumb reason, after the magnetic pulse goes away, it pulls it back where I would think it would just fall to the ground.
Right.
Why would it retract back? Because if that's the case, then why didn't all the tools go back to where they were?
Right.
The tools would just fall to the ground,
or
right?
Because it could be reverse polarity.
True.
And, I mean, who knows? I mean, anything and everything goes in this movie.
This scenario as wrong as possible.
Right.
And so it kills him because, one, it just explodes the entire deck that he's on. And the nanites are just ripping through his body and flesh and through his mouth and eyes. Yeah. Very gory horror moment. Right. That is kind of found in this movie that wants to be Event Horizon so bad, but it just can't,
Oh, by the way, really quick note though about that particular scene. If you notice, you might have you missed a heartbeat because you're so focused on the tools, but you can see that there's a Tagarada logo and symbol right on the electrical box.
They like to sprinkle this stuff, don't they? Yeah. Make sure that there's only a couple of multiverse constants. Is that company in the slushy creature, and I guess the clovers, which I want to talk about in a bit towards the end. So they're like, we have to separate the lower dock because it's going to destroy the whole ship. So they go on this weird expedition to remove the bottom part of the ship, which is now damaged beyond repair. It's not necessary for the jump. It was like living quarters or something like that, right? It was a disc because the ship was organized in a weird way where it's rotating like turbines.
That was where the O2 station was.
Right.
Yeah.
So the captain, our protagonist, and the medical officer, who are like the only really people left outside of the German guy and the Universe B engineer who are still working on the ship.
Yeah, and the medical officer.
They go to fix the problem. But of course, the captain has to sacrifice himself for some dumb reason. I don't think it was. It's like, we can do this all remotely. He's like, no, we got to do it.
I mean,
it doesn't make any sense.
It's this plot. My biggest problem. It's predictable. It's very annoying. You know,
it's kind of like, he doesn't have to die.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you just told me he doesn't have to die, but it's like, no, he has to sacrifice himself. Okay, I guess.
Like, all right, whatever, man.
Whatever.
Let's go.
He explodes and he gets carsed by just existing in space forever at this point in an alternate dimension. So, which is super dumb. So they do what they got to do, and they go. And I want to talk about this side plot because they go back to Earth, where Michael, the main protagonist's wife, or husband rather, finds this little girl, and he's like kind of been taking care of her because he just happens to find her in rubbish, in just destruction at the hospital, which makes no sense. This kid either should be already gone
dead or
with a group of people, or dead.
Like, how was she the only one?
It makes me suspicious of her. Like,
how was she the only one?
How's she the only survivor? Untouched in a ball of fire and rubbish, in like brick, and it just doesn't make any damn sense. So he has to hook up on like a bomb shelter, and he's getting more information about what's actually going on outside. And they're dancing so hard around it. They're just like, we don't know what's happening. It's like you said, it's not nuclear. Yeah. It's not XYZ, but the town, the country, the world is being ripped apart. And we then have a moment which is so silly, where we kind of get some more explanation on the protagonist, as explained by her friend from Universe B, who's saying, well, you know how your kids died because it was your fault, and you left the heater on, the heater exploded. In this universe, in my universe, they're not dead. This is the reason why you shouldn't be here. Right. And it's like, you know, you can just kind of come with me if you want. And she's just like, okay.
Yeah. And like that, at that point,
super
I was like,
nuts.
this is ridiculous.
This is
this is some
dramatic
shit.
diatribe, dude.
Yeah, man. And it immediately reminded me of Walter Bishop.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, this is dumb.
This is super dumb. Like, and this happens, and we kind of jumped around, but this happens in the film where the captain's like, this isn't your world, man. Yeah. The you that's supposed to be here is here right now, for better or for worse. And if you go down there, all you're going to be is some weird anomaly that they're going to rip apart and dissect. And you don't belong here. She's like, nah, it's my kids though. I got to figure it out. I'll figure it out. And it's just like, she has the most short-sighted thought about this. Like, if another Darren was to walk into this door right now and says, I'm Darren from Universe B,
I'm shooting him.
You kill that Darren, because doppelgangers are not to be had. Or you send him to the government to be examined forever. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, you're cool. Right? Yeah. Live your life. No, you're finished. You're in a test tube. You're Operation Sand Beast, and they're going to rip you apart forever. So we get to a part of the film, which is towards the climax, where they're just about to jump back, because they have to do 2 jumps. Mm-hmm. They have to do 1 jump to get back home, and then 1 clean jump to perfect the limitless energy. So Universe B engineer gets it in her bright idea brain that I'm taking all this shit from my Earth, and I'm just going to kill everyone here and be the White Knight and save the day for my people, because I don't care about your Universe A. My Universe B needs this more than ever, and our ship's destroyed. Yeah. So we can't even replicate it in any kind of decent time. Because building a space station like that probably takes a few lifetimes to build that crap that they had going on. It had to take about 50 or 60 years, right? Yeah. So she turns into the last boss, as it were, shooting everybody that she can. She shoots the medical officer. She shoots the German dude. And of course, it's the last battle between her and the protagonist, to which she turns on the tape of her kids laughing and crying. Which is it's so sappy. I can't stand that part. It's like, tug on your heartstrings. You know this is to be right. You would do it. And she gets alien resurrected. She get alien resurrected, where the main protag shoots a hole
in the window,
and through that little hole, she gets jettisoned into space. I was like, are they going to do it? Are they going to have her whole body go through that little hole?
I was wondering. I was hoping.
How far are they going to go with this? Because that would be awesome. Yeah. But no, they chickened out, and she just kind of the glass broke. Lost World Jurassic Park style, and she flew out into the coldness of space. And the weirdest and worst back down was she just goes around and fixes everyone. Oh, hey, German guy, you're still alive.
Right.
We're gonna fix your wounds. Hey, medical officer, you didn't die. Or was the medical officer dead?
He died.
So only 2 survivors were the German guy and her.
Yeah.
Right. And they get back home and they do the pure run and everything's working fine. The day is saved, right? And they're laughing. You hear NASA celebrating in the background.
Well, actually, okay, it's never established as NASA, which is...
I just want to say NASA because who else is it going to be?
Tagarado. Because remember the Easter egg, yeah.
So they're SpaceX at this point. They're the only game in town when it comes to this kind of exploration into the infinite, right?
Yeah.
So I will concede and say it's probably them. It's most likely them. And that's the company that's been kind of behind the scenes this entire time. And they finally get a call back out to the boyfriend. And he's like, well, what are you guys going to do? Tell them to stay up there. He's like, well, they can't just stay up there. They're on the way home. They took in the last of the escape pods. They're on the way. And in the weirdest, stupidest ending I've seen in a very long time, he starts blindly screaming into the phone, leave them up there. Leave them up there. They're with these things. This snake's out there this big. And, and you see them going into the Earth's atmosphere. Everything seems fine. They fall through the crest of clouds.
Yeah.
And you get this giant, stupid pop-up dragon of the clover creature. Right. Now big enough to soar, standing up over the clouds, mind you. It roars, Finn. The movie ends. And I was like, if it just ended without that part, it would have went from a 45% to me to like a 79, 80%. Because it just ruins everything. It
does.
It lays the biggest turd at the end of this movie.
And again,
it's unnecessary.
And I think they were trying to achieve 2 things with that. One, they were trying to really go back to what they were saying before. They weren't lying about the original Cloverfield monster just being a baby.
Right.
But who really cares about that?
Who cares? Because it's a different dimension.
Yeah, who gives a fuck? But I mean, and then the other thing was that they really tried to explain where the clover came from without explaining it. Yeah,
and I've been talking about it this whole review, and I kind of want to go into my idea of what this is all about, the whole clover thing. What I think it is the clover paradox is the event, like you mentioned, right? And the doctor mentioned that this will affect time, space, all reality. Every verse in the multiverse has been affected by this paradox in this universe. And it's ripples through time and space. So we currently have 4 universes that are affected by this as shown in cinematic form, which is the 2008 event in Clover. We have the 10 Cloverfield Lane event, which is another universe. Yep. We have the Universe A, Cloverfield Paradox. We have Universe B, Cloverfield Paradox. And what I think this series is, it's the Twilight Zone. It's just the Twilight Zone. This is an excuse for us to tell any story we want. Yeah. And we can just brush it away as it being a byproduct of the paradox. And even with their new movie coming out, Overlord, it takes place during Nazi Germany. Yeah. And
it's basically like a cinematic Black Mirror.
It's a cinematic Black Mirror. And what I think the clovers are, I think they're actually temporal parasites. Why not?
They're
temporal because the event caused them to appear, and they're falling all through space and time. Right. So you have one in 2008. You have one in 2030 or whatever this is going on in different stages of incubation. So when this tear in space happened, or this fluctuation in space, this was a byproduct of that effect. Yeah. So these particular monsters exist outside of time and space, multiverse, what have you. And whenever this is caused, they bleed into whatever reality that has an open hole. Right. Which will explain why a baby appeared in 2004, but there's full adults in 2030. You know what I mean? So this can, or even if they possibly show up in Overlord in the 39, 1940, 41, 42. And I think the creatures in 10 Cloverfield Lane is the cleanup crew.
Okay.
I think the alien ships that are purging the Earth for these temporal anomalies now.
That actually does make sense.
You know what I mean? And that's why you have two different sets of creatures. You have the non-thinking, parasitic byproduct of this paradox through time.
Right.
And now you have these highly technological super gods that are floating around killing all life because it's better than having no anomalies than having anything.
Right.
And 10 Cloverfield Lane is not about conquering. It's about extermination. It's about cleaning all these universes of this issue.
Right.
And that's where we get the gassing and we get the creatures that run around and just kill pretty much anything that's breathing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of like my theory that these are going to be the tying threads, like a fringe. The guys with no hair and the guys in the suits, I forget what they were called.
Observers.
The observers.
Yeah.
That they have to go through and clean the paradox. They have to set the water still again. And we have to clean it of these giant super beasts that happen to be byproducts of this issue. That's my little tin hat theory on how this ties together.
That makes a lot of sense. Because again, like, and it's borrowing from other works.
Borrowing from other media, right?
So like, the observers were the keepers of the universe.
They were the watchers, pretty much.
They want to make sure that their future was always in order.
Yeah.
By having the ability to go back in time and correct things, or just see things make sure that things are going according to how they should be going to.
Exactly.
The flow of time.
The flow of time is correct.
But with this, I do really like that theory, but again, there's still a hole. And the
I'm not saying it's perfect.
Yeah, no, but I really do like that theory. It's the only thing that makes the most sense in this case.
Yeah. And that's what I've been thinking about this whole time.
Because that would actually make them way more connected.
Yeah.
But the problem, though, is that if they are temporal parasites, then where are they actually coming from?
I think they're coming from the nether. I think they're coming from... Remember in Deep Space Nine? No, remember in Star Trek Voyager, there's that weird type of space that was outside of space?
Right.
That the scorpions came, the one creatures that can destroy the Borg.
Right.
I think that outside of our known multiverse, there is a bleed in between these universes, and that's where these creatures subside. So when, it's like
also like you're saying like an interstitial space between the universes,
the inner space between space. So like the human body, my blood is in my arm,
right? But
until it will change if I get cut,
right?
So. And now it's in a whole different atmosphere and it reacts differently. So to think about it like that is that these creatures are within the membrane of these realities. And because of the paradox, it cut that skin and they just bled out throughout different points of time and space and reality.
Right.
And the 10 Cloverfield Lane creatures are going around cleaning that shit up and are cleansing the universes to get it back to some remnants of normalcy.
So then...
It gives them a point. It gives these creatures a point. And it also allows you to tell any story you want because it's a damn multiverse.
Right.
Superman could be a part of it for all we know. Shit. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Or Goku or something.
Fucking Goku shit.
So going on that theory, which I think is a really, really, really strong theory, then... Because this new movie is just a code name Overlord.
It's just code name Overlord. That's all we pretty much know.
What I'm thinking then, again, borrowing from Fringe, like these aliens that are cleaning up house are probably going to be featured prominently in
Overlord.
Yeah,
because I think the plot of Overlord is that the Nazis have gotten a hold of some tech they're not supposed to have. Maybe in this universe, one of these ships crashed.
Right.
And they got a hold of the tech, and it's far beyond what they know how to use.
Right.
And they're using this temporal erasure tech to kind of make their universe even worse than what it should possibly be. Right. And that goes back to these guys just being pretty much temporal cleanup crew.
Yeah.
Cleaning out these ticks that are now infected the body of the multiverse.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's, until they tell me differently, that's the headcanon I'm going with. because to me that makes the most sense.
It does. Because otherwise, like, if it turns out that there's absolutely no monsters or anything to do with aliens in this next one,
yeah, I'm gonna be kind of upset.
Then none of this shit makes sense.
None of it makes sense.
And like, this is dumb. Even as an anthology.
Yeah, even as an anthology,
no
you can't. The beauty of anthologies is you gotta lean towards one way or the other. Are you gonna be creature feature or are you gonna be conspiracy? Or is any of it gonna make sense or is none of it gonna make sense? It's like the Twilight Zone. Like the Twilight Zone isn't a connected universe. It's just random stories from the Twilight Zone.
Because there are too many connections, especially and actually there's another Easter egg actually in the very first film, in the very first opening where you see that this tape is footage of the DoD.
Yeah,
you'd actually see a symbol that's the same symbol of the Dharma Initiative from Lost.
See, that's just weird.
Yeah.
So what is it? Like, I get it, but is Lost a part of this weird multiverse now? Because I would assume that the creatures don't necessarily have to be in every version of the multiverse.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is why they're not really appearing in 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Right.
They're just not there. But these aliens are scrubbing the entire multiverse for these things. And that means killing all life in the universe to do that, especially the main planet that caused this issue.
Yeah.
Because it is Earth. Unless in the multiverse there's different versions where different alien species have caused this issue. But for the sake of consistency, I want to say that this event on this plane of existence caused all of it.
Yeah.
The Cloverfield-paradox on this space station caused everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what
within the entire multiverse. This one out of a quintillion, universes, this one caused the problem. That's
what they were trying to convey.
Yeah.
Which they did convey that. But again, like, they did it in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, it was very, and I was just thinking about, and I mentioned this on the podcast, on the weekly podcast, is that we shouldn't have to think about this. I get it. Like, this is a form of a buzz around the mythos and the show, in the film, but don't make it connected if it's not connected. And if it is connected, then do a better job at sprinkling your connections.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to be theory crafting this until later this year with Overlord. And if that's completely different, then what do we have?
I mean, that's really what they want. They want you to theory craft, because that to them that equates to a heavy buzz.
And heavy buzz
but people again, like, people are going to stop caring.
Yeah.
People have already stopped caring.
Yeah, because people are already kind of upset about the film.
Yeah, like,
what have you really accomplished here?
Right.
It's kind of like, it's like, I don't want to go into Star Wars, so I won't. I was going to use a Star Wars analogy, so that doesn't belong here.
No.
We're talking about actually decent science fiction. Oh. Yeah. But I just wish that things were a little bit more tightly knit.
Yeah.
And the 800-pound gorilla in the room is 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
And that's like the only real standout. This doesn't make sense outside of little things like familiar company names and familiar imagery. That's it. Yeah. There's no real tie to either of these films outside of that.
If they're trying to make a connection, they're trying to get us to talk about these connections. It really certainly feels like they're trying to get us to
write the story for them.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
write the story for them.
Yeah, to make their jobs easier.
Yeah.
However, like, if it also feels like they know that none of these connections are really going anywhere.
Yeah. Like, they've game planned this thing out. J.J. Abrams is no slouch.
Yeah.
He's a very meticulous dude. Mm-hmm. So if his name's attached to it, trust and believe that he has the next 5 films in his head already that he will produce or direct himself. So it's like whatever theory crafting we're doing doesn't really matter, but the whole point is that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And in talking about it, it creates buzz, and buzz creates asses and seats. Because I'm not going to lie, when this dropped on Super Bowl Sunday, I was just like, I guess I'm watching that tonight.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And it's such a plore. Like, I would have preferred it being called God Particle than the Cloverfield-paradox, because it just feels like they're a McDonald's stamp. You know what I mean? It's like, people are dumb. They're not going to get it if you call it something different. It has to have that Cloverfield moniker.
Yeah. And
it's just very silly to me.
But it's also
brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It's also brilliant, which bothers me.
It's brilliant, but at the same time, their logic is still flawed because like you want to apply the lowest denominator, but you're not doing that because people want answers. People who are not cerebral, who are very frontal lobe.
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
you can't market to everyone and then make your source material available to no one.
Right.
Only people who know what's really going on with this shit is you guys.
Yeah.
But you want to sell to the cheap seats, but you also want the fanatics to be on board. You got to pick a lane.
Yeah.
You got to choose, and the best movies do that. You got the best, what's the word I'm looking for? Franchises do that. Whereas like, make no illusions. The Fast and Furious series knows it's stupid. It knows it's catering to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
But they do that in a straight line.
In a consistent
way to where I'll watch a Fast 8 movie because I know what I'm getting into, but don't try to hit me with quantum entanglement, but at the same time, talk to me like I'm a child.
Right.
Or piecemeal my information like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
It rubs people the wrong way. Either the smart guys who are really on point and hunting down these social marketing, or the people who just want to see a good horror movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or people who's not really into it. You're not catering to everyone. You're catering to no one.
Yep.
And that's the biggest flaw of this film. If it had nothing to do with Cloverfield, it would have been a better movie. Mm-hmm. If it didn't have the Cloverfield name or that stupid ending, it would have been a better movie. But by doing that, you've ruined the structural integrity of the film, which makes it drop on my list.
I mean, I would.
It's good until it's not.
I would go so far as to say they've ruined the integrity of the entire name of Cloverfield. So
they got to do something. Overlords better be something crazy. Yeah. I'm not completely mentally checked out yet because I love Cloverfield 1.
Yeah,
and I thought 10 Cloverfield Lane was interesting in a character building film. But once again, the ending of 10 Cloverfield Lane was a cop out to me, and once again, the ending of Cloverfield-Paradox is a cop out to me. It's a forced cinematic universe builder where we're too savvy for that now. We live in the age of the MCU and freaking the failures of the DCEU. We know we can feel this stuff coming. Yeah. So make a good film first and foremost. And then in post-production, lay your Easter eggs. Yeah. Because if that ending never happened, I would have been just happy theory crafting. Oh, the guy is the same guy. The guy is the alternate reality version of the son of the guy from 10 Cloverfield Lane. And it did say that company. Oh, it did have the celestial thing.
Right.
But by hitting us over the head with it at the end of the movie, it just ruined it took all the steam I had coming out of the film. And that's why I say it's as bad as it is good.
Yeah. And even though it's a terrible film, I do like it.
I feel the same way. Like, I'm not going to defend this film to anyone who says it's bad because it's not that great. It was rushed. Some parts feel like a Netflix movie and some parts feel like a cinematic film. Right. Like the space station stuff and all the space station graphics and the orbit graphics are beautiful. It's something like out of Gravity, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the inner workings and all the Earth stuff feels so Netflix. Yeah. It feels like I'm watching Bright or something. It doesn't have the same production quality.
Yeah.
So all right, Chihuahua. So if you were to rate this film, from 0 to 5, what would you rate it?
I rated it 1.5.
Ooh, you're meaner than I am. I would rate it a 3. It gets a C.
Yeah.
Only because there's some parts of it that shine.
Yeah.
And there's some parts of it that bring it way down. This is the kid who would have got the A on the class if he wasn't an asshole. Mm. You know what I mean? This is the kid who would have got an A on his test if he didn't draw a dick on his test paper, right? Yeah. It's like, well, you just failed, buddy. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
So I take this to a 3 out of 5.
I give it a 1.5 for a number of reasons, but the only thing that would, again, with ending,
the ending just wrecked me, dude.
Ending would have brought it up.
Actually, with it
would have brought it up to an actual maybe a 3.
If they would have nailed the ending and just left it alone, if that stupid monster didn't pop out of the clouds, I would have given this maybe a 3.5 or a 4. Yeah. Because I like the story and I like this kind of science fiction.
I mean, plus the other things that were
so
bothering
frustrating.
me, other things that were bothering me, are just the logic.
The logic behind it. The Earth stuff really irked me because it was totally unnecessary and it just made it made you try to keep track of what's going on harder.
Yeah. And
the Earth stuff really irked me.
And plus, there's still some confusion on who that Michael actually was.
Is that people, Michael B or Michael?
Well, that's what some people are actually coming to the conclusion. And so, like, they actually never did really go back to their own universe.
But he was in his apartment. But he was in his room.
Yeah.
He went out with his kids,
right? I mean, like,
to go to work during whatever the hell was going on.
Exactly.
So it must have been Michael A.
It has to be Michael A.
Right?
Because especially when he says, "Oh, I wanted to say was well, maybe we should try again."
Yeah, and that's something Michael A. would say.
Yeah, and
if Michael B. was there, he'd have been like, "Well, the kids are with me with this random little girl we found. We're fine." And
again, people are stupid, but
but hey, it's something. That's what we do this for. It's for the debate, right? It's for the what ifs. Oh man. I'm starting to have fun with these, so I'm going to keep this little tradition going. If you were to make a Cloverfield-paradox beer,
sorry,
it's all right. What would be in your Cloverfield-paradox beer?
Some sort of like, okay. Sorry, excuse me. First of all, making a beer for this movie, it would probably have to be something super basic, like a lager or something.
Keep it cheap, baby. Keep it cheap,
because that's precisely how this movie feels.
Yeah.
So it would be something akin to like more like a colored Coors Light.
Damn.
Because that's what this makes me feel like.
This movie is a strawberry Rita, ladies and
so
gentlemen.
like a Slusho colored Coors Light.
Fuck, it tastes like cotton candy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like cotton candy, but it has a texture of Snickers or some shit.
Oh God! Oh, you're making me hawk. That's a 1.5 beer right there. That's what you don't even drink that at the end of the party when all the good stuff's gone.
Right.
Like, who brought the banana Rita? No one's drinking that shit. Oh man! Any passing words before we close out this review of the Cloverfield-paradox?
It's a shit movie, but watch it anyway because it does do some things good, but it does a lot of things bad too.
I would say definitely watch this movie if you can. Watch Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane first.
Yeah.
Because this movie is one other bad thing about this movie is heavily reliant on your understanding of those two films.
Yeah.
Because the monster's not going to make a whole lot of sense if you don't know what it's about.
Right.
So try to watch those superior films because in my opinion, 10 Cloverfield Lane is the better of the three.
Yes.
In regards to storytelling, acting, John Goodman, all that crazy stuff. But watch this movie. It's free. If you have Netflix, it's free. So check it out. Base your own opinion and let us know. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, or iHeartRadio, let us know what you think. Give us your theories on what's happening in this cosmic slop of a film. And I would love to hear it. And if I get any, I'll definitely go over them the next review. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G. And I would like to thank Darren for coming back and doing a review on this funny film.
Yeah. Funny is putting it lightly.
Funny is putting it way lightly.
But yeah, I'm always glad.
Where can we find you, buddy?
Find me at Beer Mrs. Bureau on YouTube at God, I don't know why I always do this. At Beer B Bureau on Twitter, Beer Business Bureau on Facebook, and beerbusinessbureau.com.
Go find them and get that Cloverfield cotton candy beer that's going to make you Earl. It's going to make you Earl worms. Yeah, you put like gummy worms in the bottle so when you drink it, you can spit out worms, bro. Ugh, nice. Thank you for joining this review. And I'm always going to ask you to look towards the skies. Look towards the skis.